Hello and welcome to Sirona Care and Health's first ever podcast. I'm Garrett, the head of EPRR, and I'll be your host. In this episode, we're talking moustaches and, most importantly, what they stand for, Movember, the campaign that encourages men and women to start conversations about men's health and issues that can affect us all. Joining me today are 5 male colleagues who all work in different areas of health and social care. So here's my starter for 10. Gentlemen, why do you think that men find it particularly difficult to talk about their health? And we're going to start with Neil.
Morning, Greg. Thanks for the introduction. Well, that's a really good question. I believe that this is changing, but I think it's quite a complex issue. I think there are several factors to consider, such as stigma, societal expectations, having someone to talk to. I also think that the idea of the man in the 21st century is evolving. You know, since I was a child or a young boy in the 80s, my role models may have been the Supermans and the Batmans of the world. We had this identity of the tough man, someone who was maybe stoic and doesn't show weakness. But I think this is changing now. I think it's the idea of feeling vulnerable. It was previously seen as a weakness, but I think, you know what, it actually takes a real strength to say, today I'm struggling, or, you know what, today I'm not feeling okay. And this isn't a sign of weakness. It's actually okay.
Thanks, Neil. What do you think, Mark?
It's vulnerability, and I'm speaking now.
Yeah, we got you.
So vulnerability and weakness, I think, is still in our language. You know, people say, "Oh, I'm going to show my vulnerabilities now," and it's not seen as a strength. So what we see as weaknesses are actually strengths, and I think it's taking time and obviously generations to build on that. So it's in our tradition. And cultures across the world with family. You know, my dad was always wanted to be strong, a boxer. So grow up, be strong, hit that bully. Whereas I've actually been different to that. So definitely the expectations that men want to be. So and also talking about it can be difficult for men because of this. And who do they speak to? Is it another man? Do I speak to a woman? Or, you know, what groups can I go to that can actually listen to me?
Thanks, Mark. Simon, good morning.
Good morning, Greg. Well, I think this is it is a curious thing. I've in this respect always found myself slightly different from a lot of my peers in that I didn't have a father figure in my life when I grew up a long time ago. But what I noticed in my teenage years, when I was desperately trying to get girlfriends and things like that, was that actually women seemed to respond better to somebody who was a bit vulnerable, who wasn't going around being an arse or a tough guy or whatever. And that thought, I mean, I've never used it as a sort of deliberate tactic, but it's always on reflection stayed with me that my best relationships have been ones where I've been a bit more honest and so on. So I have subsequently, you know, as time goes on, found that whilst I often have an openness to talk about men's things, I had a prostate operation this year, in fact, and so Movember is very much in my purview. But I found that other people shut the conversation down. And actually, very often you might be there at a dinner party or, you know, with a group of people, and you start talking about something that, as one ages, I mean, I feel really passionate about this, that men ought to be encouraged to talk more, because as you get old, I'm now 70, I'm probably one of the oldest people that is working for Sirona. As you get older, so many things happen as a sort of part of your natural progress through life. And I would have just found it so much easier if I would have been able to say, well, actually, that's supposed to happen because I'm a man and I'm getting older. You know, this happens, and that ranges from everything to what your sleep patterns are, what your sexual health is, what your skin gets thinner. Did you know that? Did you know that your skin gets thinner as you get older? You know, I mean, I didn't know any of that kind of stuff. And I just wish that there was a way that we could all be a bit more open about it. And whenever I find somebody, and it doesn't happen terribly much amongst men, I have no idea why, because I think the macho man, in terms of, if you like, you know, breeding, doesn't work terribly well as far as I can see. But in terms of, you know, your vision of yourself, you know, I just do think it would be much better if people could just be just a little bit more open about what's going on in their lives.
And can I just add to that? I work with older people in dementia. I'm a dementia advisor. And when I speak to male carers or even men with dementia, they often, you know, do actually talk about their health and their problems. So I'm not saying it's everybody, but you know, I could easily judge and say men don't talk about it. But when I go and visit people, they do. So sometimes it's true that men don't talk about their health problems necessarily, but this could be people that are a bit younger than, say, 70s, maybe in their 50s and 40s and 30s, because maybe the macho-ness is relevant more then, and we're not as older then to be as wise probably and look back and say, actually, I can talk about these things.
Yeah, that also actually, Mark, makes me think of triggers as well, because I mean, I just mentioned about my prostate this year. I mean, before you get a prostate operation, you've probably got something like a 5 or 6 year build-up of things that are, you know, not going right before you get the operation. And I've always been quite open about that. And I have found a couple of people that have really wanted to share their own experiences. Whereas most people, when I say, oh, God, excuse me, I've got to go for a pee again, and it's the third time in an hour, you know, they just kind of pretend it's not happening. But just occasionally you come across somebody and you go, oh, God, I've just, you know, and then you start sharing that experience. And those people welcome the outlet. I mean, it's really interesting that once you can be the trigger for the conversation or the catalyst for it, then actually you find people really do want to talk to you about it.
Mm.
Have we lost? I think we might have lost Greg, but
Yeah, it's like
Mohamed, I think you're about to come in, aren't you? You're on mute.
Hello. Yes. Good morning, everybody. I'm very happy to participate in this discussion, and I think I am at the center stage, and I'm very much involved with meeting with this, you know, sort of conversation, because I'm a health link worker. I work in the front line, and I meet also, I mean, especially my community, and I'm really assigned, although I also assist women, I am earmarked for, you know, assisting men in the health settings. Yeah. And I've been doing this work for about 20 years, so I know very much about that. And I have seen, yes, that it was always an issue. We were asking ourselves why men does not so frequently come as women, you know, to talk about that and to seek medical help and that sort of thing. So I am talking from the perspective of the community, which I, you know, which I represent. I have seen now, and I heard from you, and we have a lot of similarities. Why don't men come forward to look for you know, help with you know, with their health needs? I thought there's a discrepancy between the development level of the countries, and it is. But I know that we are all at the end of the day human, and we have some similarities. But it is the time factor or the generation factor that's different. Suppose where you were talking of your fathers and all that, or grandfathers, you know, what was the case? This is still the case in our country, where men, like all men, brought up as strong, as a warrior, as somebody, you know, and his mother or father always tells him, you don't have to complain about little injuries or little sickness and all that. So all this is implanted in the men, and from there, yeah, they feel very strong and resist, those things, and they don't come always forward for that. The other thing is that many people here were here for the last, say, 2 decades or more. Some of them have came here with both, stress, depression, and all that. Some are, very much impaired with their mental health and all that. So they lost confidence. They have, and they are not confident to come and maybe come for us and need to be interpreted, because they were here for 3 years. They failed in that, the uphill struggle, to integrate very much to society because of different reasons. So they are not very much confident in even coming and asking for help. The other thing in our country, in our place, is that I'm outnumbered by women. All my other colleagues are women, and men would not come very well to seek help, because I'm only available for certain hours in the week, but more women are available to help them with the language, with the support and all that. And men would not like, naturally, to come forward and ask a woman for help. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, can I just ask a question, Mohamed? Because you mentioned it. We have a board member from the Somali communities, and one of the things that she always talks about is how the Somali community, as generally as a community, just don't recognise mental health. She has a son with autism. She probably doesn't. Well, she campaigns for autism in the BAME communities. I just wonder what you think about that generally, because that's a wider issue, isn't it, than just men?
Yes, it's a wider issue, and I thought we were going to that in the next point, which was the most common health issues. But anyway, that's very true. It's one of the areas that there's, like any other community. Now I come to know that there's a stigma in mental health in all communities, almost all communities. Yeah. But the level is much different, like a community like ours, yeah, where mental health is mostly a taboo, where the mentally ill person was always treated as someone mad or crazy.
Yeah.
Where I know today that I've been here, that a lot of people who are integrated into society, who are doing about their own business and all that, have got some mental problems, yes. But many people are very reluctant to admit, this in our community. That's why they fail off the track, fall off the track. Thank you.
Brilliant, thanks guys. And Sean, have you got any comments on why you think it's particularly difficult for guys to talk about health?
Absolutely, and I think everybody's already touched on all the key points I was going to bring on, all apart from just one thing, which is the fear factor as well. I think it probably links into some of what we've already said about why we can be more stoic and reluctant to show our true emotions and express ourselves fully. But historically, men have been the providers in many households, and I think part of the knock-on effect of that is the fear of what if I cannot provide for my loved ones, my family, whatever the unit may be. And I think that's a significant concern for many men, and certainly during times that we're experiencing recently with things like COVID, that uncertainty and unknown about what is just around the corner can be very unsettling and can have a huge impact on a man's mental health, as for anybody's mental health. So I think it's really important that we do try and manage those concerns and reach out to our friends and our colleagues and our loved ones, and let people know that yes, we are worried about money, we are worried about how we're going to step up and make sure that we continue to look after ourselves and each other in the financial sense as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Reaching out is crucial. So we're going to be including links to our services and other relevant organisations where people can get advice and guidance on the topics that we're discussing in this podcast. I think that's really important. Thanks. So let's move on then. we all work in very different specialisms across Sirona, but what are the common health issues that you come across when supporting men or boys in your services? Can we go back to, we start with Mark?
So as a dementia advisor, I'm primarily visiting people of the older generation. I do see people in their 50s, but generally they are 65 onwards. Although women predominantly get diagnosed with Alzheimer's and or dementia more than men do, men are catching up as we are living longer. And there are many different health conditions that lead, obviously, to dementia. So dementia itself is one of those health conditions that men can actually get. But along that way, obviously, we've got prostate cancer and depression. Men under 50, it's extremely high proportion of men who are in the suicide rates. So, it's a very key issue, suicide for men, especially under 50. I'd say loneliness is another one, especially if they lose their partner or their family relationships break down.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark. Sean?
Absolutely. I can completely relate to what Mark's touched on there as well. And it's interesting, there's a bit of a theme coming out with us all touching more or less on the issues around cancers. And every year I try and support a different charity. And this year I'm supporting Prostate Cancer UK because I feel that it is a very significant issue, especially amongst men. My understanding is that it particularly affects those 50 and above, but the numbers are increasing year on year. So I'm very keen that the research and the investigations into why that may be and how we can counter that gets to continue. So what I would applaud anybody listening to this podcast to do, if you're approached to undertake any screening or be involved in relation to that, and make sure, of course, that you're checking yourself regularly as well for any lumps and bumps. We all hear about females checking the breast tissue, and I think it's just as important that men remember to check themselves as well, especially things like the testicles, for anything that may be untoward, and not to be afraid to reach out to the GP and say, I'm a little bit worried about this, it's probably nothing, but and I think those are very important conversations to be had. Don't be embarrassed about having them.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Thanks, Sean. Neil?
Thanks, guys. So some background, I'm a children's physiotherapist. So a lot of the young people and children that I work with either have a disability or are referred to physiotherapy for an assessment for supporting their physical needs. So health is a huge aspect of our therapeutic interactions. But often when focusing on the physical function, discussions around mental health may not be the priority during their appointment. So considering that every contact counts, it's really vital, I think, to be aware of this. And for example, things like coming to terms with a disability, there can be such a wide range in conditions or disabilities with associated problems. Take cerebral palsy, for example, one of the most common conditions that I work with children and young people. I mean, everyone's experience is completely individual, but some experiences are shared. For example, adolescents are having to cope with the challenges that they're going through at every hurdle of their life. For example, they're not able to do the things that their peers can do without support, such as driving lessons or getting their own car at 17. It's a very typical experience for some of our young people that I work with to struggle to come to terms with. This is like the concept of chronic sorrow, like reliving their awareness of their disability at every developmental or landmark of their age. And it can be really challenging. And there's limited support available for this. For example, like who to turn to ask for help. So often in therapeutic sessions, because in the nature of our role, we're working with a young person for a long period of time, you develop a relationship or rapport, so they feel comfortable talking. And often it comes up during an exercise session. They might say, well, all of my friends are learning to drive and I want to, but I'm feeling left out because, how do I get a driving instructor who can support, or a car who can support me with my disability? Or things like, all of my friends play football for the school team, but I can't, and what do I do because I use a wheelchair or I use a frame? So it's finding those avenues to support them. For example, using our experiences to find things like inclusive football to support these young people and these children. So for me, it's kind of, there's so many different health things that come up in conversations with your children, young people, and it's just allowing them to feel open to talk about these things and open to talk about their concerns and express them.
It's really interesting, Neil. Thanks, and thanks for the important work that you're doing. It's really good. Mohamed, I think you shared quite a bit of your experience around this, but have you got any other comments around the common health issues that you experience with males that you in your service users?
Yes, yes, because I'll just repeat it. I am working at the front line, and my title is Health Link Worker. Mostly I'm working at the health settings with the GPs, with the nurses and all that. Yes, I am, receiving men at the end of the front line, and they are coming all sorts of issues. Yeah, although we said that they are not, most of them are not coming forward with their problems, but still there are people who are coming, and I am the only male link worker who is assigned, to help men in that issue. So they are coming with all sorts of problems like diabetes. They are coming with mental health issues. Those who at least admit it, although they are downplaying it, but still those, always they come, when they are going to admit some mental health problems and all that, because they failed maybe with their requirements from the job center, because their benefits may have stopped and all that. And at that point, they might think that there's something wrong, or if they admit their problems, they would get some support with that. Yeah. So yeah, with mental health as well. The other thing which they are coming forward with is the prostate thing, or the men's bladder problems. Yeah. So now we are also doing some evenings and some sessions, information sessions. Last year I have done an evening with awareness of prostate, a prostate awareness day, which was very successful. It was, participated by many people. But the thing is that we still need, a very good outreach to men. That's where which always I propose it. When you go people to their settings, as you have mentioned, one of you have mentioned, I think, Mark, they are more open to talk. They are more open to talk. And the more you meet them in their own settings, the more problems would arise, and they would admit to their problems. So I was always advocating now that more outreach work than waiting them here at the reception. Yeah, it would be very worthwhile. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Mohamed. And Simon, as chair, your experience in Sirona may be very different, but have you got any comments on this?
I just want to pick up on a couple of things. Corporately, I'm not in the front line, so I can't say much there. But I just want to say on the prostate cancer front that here am I. I'm 70 years old. I feel like an old tree, and as the tree gets older, the lichen, how do you say it, starts to attach to you a little bit. Prostate cancer is serious. If you start to get the symptoms that Sean was talking about earlier, then you go to see your GP straight away, have the conversation with him. The only thing I want to say on that context is that most of us at my age will start to have some cancer cells in their prostate, and that is not the end of the world. So as my consultant said, this is, we just watch it. Most men, one in two men of my age will have an enlarged prostate. So it's not unusual that you're starting to have some waterworks problem. Just go and talk to your GP about it. And more than 1 in 2, over 50% of people will have some cancer cells going in at the point that they die. Now, these are facts. It's not the end of the story, but the more you can get just engaged and talk with your health professionals about what's going on there, then actually the more comfortable you'll be, with it, because as we age, these things happen.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. That's an important reminder. My grandfather actually died recently of prostate cancer, but he lived with cancer for 20 years, and it didn't affect his health really at all, right up until the very end. And I think that's largely because he did recognise those symptoms and seek help early on and got the right treatment at the right time. So yeah, it's a really important reminder. Thank you. So finally, then we know that talking and out loud and to other people and checking yourself is important to maintaining our health, but it's also important to exercise and to keep your body moving. Now, personally, I like to partake in long muddy walks with my dog, and to help with my mindfulness practice, I enjoy target shooting. So my final question to you guys is, what activities do you do to stay active? And Simon, can we start with you, please?
You can. I'm a passionate believer in staying active and exercise. I think everybody that knows me knows that. I'm a keen mountaineer and sailor. I would say I personally exercise for an hour a day, every day, something, walking, running, swimming. Haven't been able to go swimming too much recently, but plenty of walking, plenty of running. This morning I had an hour and a half cycle before this show. I just think this, and I really do feel very passionate about this. We're in the middle of a public health crisis right now, a COVID crisis, and yet I would like to see us focus more on the health of the public. And I really don't understand why we aren't all just pushing people, instead of saying, well, you know, you can have an hour to go and exercise. Why aren't we saying you must have an hour to go and exercise? You know, just change the language a bit. Encourage people. We really need to work on population health generally. It's a passionate thing of mine. I'll be talking to the system leaders about that again this afternoon. But you know, let's all get that message out. And it doesn't have to be, you know, climbing big mountains. It's just some exercise, get your health in. And that's the thing that you can do to protect yourself, not only on prostate or anything else, but just all your mental health, but also in this time of COVID, which we know is affecting those people with vulnerabilities and obesities and so on. Now is the time to be out there thinking about what else we can do.
Important message. Thank you, Simon. Clearly, you are very passionate about that. Mohamed.
Yes, I've been working with health professionals and the community for a very long time. Now, I come across everywhere or every advice given by a health professional, and everything it contains, you know, be active, change your lifestyle, do some exercise, and all that. Whether they are complaining about mental health, whether they are complaining about diabetes, whether they are complaining about blood pressure, whether they are, all sorts of things. We know that, and then day after day, I understand, and I also advise people out of the sessions. You know, when I am doing some community outreach, when I got some people who are complaining about their health, which I know exactly. I am not advising clinically, but for such things like it's a health promotion thing, which I always tell them, you know, to be more active, to change their lifestyle, and that will help. That's what I tell them. So I have gathered a lot of experience regarding to that, where I have known that every illness or every impairment and all that, the best cure or one of the best, you know, relief of that is, you know, being active and, you know, having a good lifestyle. So I'm recommending that, and I recommended that myself. Yeah, this is what I'm doing. I'm always, you know, I'm reprimanding myself always and say, did you do that yourself? Did you practice what you are preaching and all that? So sometimes, yes, I said to myself, you didn't do enough. Okay, anyway, what I believe, I don't do much other exercise, but what I believe it was, you know, walking and all that. But nowadays that we are in COVID and working from home, this is very much limited and all that. What I do now is try to do the other things, what we men regarded as the odd jobs, some domestic work, you know, helping with the washing, helping with the, with the hoover, with the mopping and all that. Not only to help, but also to stretch my muscles. Yeah, so this is one thing I'm just gaining now from this, you know, homestaying thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Mohamed. So you tire yourself out by helping out around the house. That's good. Neil, what do you get up to?
Well, I agree with Mohamed and Simon, and I'm very passionate about exercise. I mean, naturally, as a physiotherapist, I'm drawn to physical activity. It's part of my life, and as a role model, staying physically active is really vital. You have to practice what you preach, just like Mohamed says. So in the summer months, I'm an avid rock climber, usually spending time up in the mountains in North Wales. This summer has been different for all of us, but hasn't stopped me being physically active with paddleboarding on the River Avon, cycling, walking in nature, hiking. But also, I really value meditation and yoga, and I think they're really important for me. And I think, every contact counts with our patients and the people we come across, whether it's in corporate or whether it's clinically, every contact counts. Let's get the message out. Exercise is vital for your health. Get moving and get out.
Great. Thanks, Neil. Mark?
I agree with everything everyone's saying, and I'm repeating some of it. But for me, it is about walking, running. I do enjoy that. I get up in the morning a few times a week, and I go running around the Bristol. It's fantastic. I get to see everything, especially on a nice morning, and it's not chucking down the rain. But I still try and go. But I also like camping. I also like to do podcasts. There's some great, interesting podcasts out there. You can do things that discuss mental health, for example, health ones, or just funny ones, comedy, brilliant to go walking with. I like to keep my strength up, so I do follow YouTube, different videos on there. And of course, we've probably heard of Joe Wicks. So I don't have much space to exercise, but he tells me you don't need much space, so I follow what he says. So that's really good. I do enjoy that. But I do, when I visit people, I think, every contact does count. And when you're speaking with somebody, it's trying to find out what's good for them, because everyone has different situations, and it's seeing what they can do. And with the people I work with, it's getting out and walking, joining groups for socializing, good for their mental health. And as Mohamed said, doing things around the house, whether it's folding sheets, washing up and down the stairs, fetching, carrying, all these different things are really good for strength, for brain stimulation, helping out in the garden. Gardening is really good. And coming back to nature, I love nature, and trying to get people to visit places around South Gloucestershire, Bristol, or further afield where they can walk in nature. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Mark. And Sean?
Yes. Most.
I think you've lost Sean there.
I think Sean might have started his physical activity.
Run.
So, he's just popped back in. Sean, can you hear us?
I can. Sorry, the connection just dropped out there. It had to happen once during the meeting, at least, didn't it? So, like I was saying before we got cut off, I was pipped to the post pretty much with all the comments about moving and walking. As a paramedic, I used to be on the road, and that was very much day-to-day part of the role. And since I've been office-based, it's been much more important that I find the time to make the effort to do those things. So really important to move and walk around. I can relate as well to people that say that it's difficult in this day and age with technology to actually switch off, to truly be away from it. So I do find when I really want to get a deeper level of relaxation, it's very important to have time away from the screen. So mobile devices put away, turned off, not a distraction. And Neil, you touched on it. Connecting with nature is always really good. With the meditation and the mindfulness, something I've recently been introduced to, and I was a bit skeptical to start with, but actually the benefits of it have been surprising, is laughter yoga, which is a novel concept. And the guy that introduced it to me, he was introduced at a big festival years ago, in the days that we were able to get together, a WOMAD festival. He loved it so much, he now teaches it. He's a chef by trade, but now teaches laughter yoga, where, as the title suggests, you laugh and use that as a form of exercise and meditation, and it's a fantastic experience. So I'm sure I'll be able to get a link to more information attached to this podcast for people that's interested.
Yeah, I've got to jump in there, Sean. That's a really, really good point. Laughter yoga, if anybody hasn't done it, it's so fantastic. It's a funny one, and you just can't stop laughing. And me and my partner did it once at the weekend, like before a weekend, and the whole weekend we just were in such a joyful, happy mood because it just uplifts your spirit, and it's a really good one. So definitely get those links out there, Sean. Share them.
Will do, definitely, Neil.
Thanks, everybody. I'm going to look forward to when COVID's over, going rock climbing with Neil and sailing with Simon. In the meantime, I think I'm going to look up laughter yoga because that sounds like it's right up my street. So thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks to Simon, Mohamed, to Neil, Mark and Sean for joining me on Sirona's first ever podcast. It's been inspired by Movember.
Yeah, Greg, can I just jump in right at the end there? Because I'm just trying to use every opportunity that I can to get a message of thanks out from the board to everybody. We're at a particularly stressful time, not just for Sirona, although we are feeling it in Sirona, but right across the whole system, right across the whole nation. Everybody in Sirona is doing a fantastic job. The men in Sirona, I'm so pleased to see all of you stepping up today. That's absolutely brilliant. Janet, I know, is our chief executive, is putting out, but the key message from all of this for me is thank you, look out for each other, and be kind to each other. And that's not gender stereotyped. That's just we all need to do that. So thank you very much indeed.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Simon. So we're going to share a list of organisations who can offer advice and support on all the topics that we've discussed in this podcast on our website. And please feel free to share this episode with your friends and families and get that message out there far and wide. Thanks for watching and goodbye.